They found him alone, slumped forward in his recliner, with no signs of injury and no cry for help, just silence. The television was still faintly glowing, his robe left open, and a quiet emptiness filled the room, a kind of stillness that only arrives after something that cannot be undone. The autopsy reported natural causes, yet to those of us familiar with the symptoms, it was something different, a silent hormonal collapse, the gradual decline of a man's vitality, not caused by illness, but by neglect. Sadly, he is not alone. Every year, thousands of older men go through the same weakening of strength, sexual function, and emotional sharpness while believing they are doing the right thing by giving up what they assume is no longer necessary. For decades, men have been told to avoid self-pleasure because it is immature, shameful, or unnecessary. However, after the age of 60, this mindset can quietly cost everything. Here is the truth that nobody openly discusses. When you stop masturbating in your later years, your body does not just pause. Instead, it begins to break down. Your prostate becomes stagnant, your testosterone plummets, your emotional resilience fades, and by the time you notice these effects, years have already been lost. I am Dr. Michael Carter, a certified urologist and specialist in men's health with more than 40 years of experience helping aging men restore their vitality, confidence, and quality of life. I have met farmers, veterans, teachers, and grandfathers who all believed they were making the right choices. By refraining, I have observed the silent remorse in their eyes when the harm eventually caught up with them, because most of these individuals were unaware that the routines they adopted many years ago, routines society once labeled as shameful, are now quietly causing problems during the most crucial phase of their life. However, there is encouraging news. In this video, I will guide you through the 4 genuine health repercussions that arise when older men stop masturbating, and more importantly, how to avoid them before it becomes too late. These are straightforward, practical, and medically reliable strategies that thousands of my patients have applied to safeguard their sexual well-being, renew their vitality, and prevent common issues often mistaken as mere signs of aging. Make sure to watch until the end, since the final consequence I will discuss is something even many medical professionals hesitate to mention, yet it carries the risk of secretly tripling your chances of prostate complications if neglected. If you want to protect your body, maintain your confidence, and preserve your independence as you grow older, this is essential information. If you are watching right now, type 1 in the comments if you agree or 0 if you doubt it. I appreciate both responses because this conversation deserves to be open, honest, and filled with real solutions for older men. Let us start with the first and possibly most hazardous consequence of stopping masturbation in later years. I've encountered this more times than I can recall. A man in his late 60s or early 70s. A man walks into my office feeling both bewildered and upset. He shares that he has not experienced a spontaneous erection for several months. In some cases, it has even been more than a whole year. What unsettles him most is not the lack of function itself, but how abruptly it stopped. One day, he felt completely normal, and the next, something inside simply ceased working. This sudden change surprises many men, mainly because nobody ever explained that stopping sexual activity could cause their sexual performance to deteriorate, much like an unused muscle weakening over time. Let me explain it clearly. Your penis is not merely a decorative feature, but a working organ that needs regular blood circulation to maintain its health. When someone goes for long periods without any sexual stimulation, particularly after the age of 60, a dangerous process starts. Blood flow diminishes, oxygen supply drops, and the tissues begin to harden, not in a beneficial way, but in a way that leads to scarring, nerve injury, and permanent loss of erectile ability. This is not just a theory. This is fundamental vascular biology. Imagine if you completely stopped moving your legs for 6 months. Your muscles would lose strength and coordination, flexibility would fade, and you might even forget how to walk properly. The same concept applies to the penis. After a certain age, it does not simply enter a resting mode. It begins to deteriorate if left unused. The most frightening part is that this decline happens quietly and gradually. There are no loud alarms, just a slow regression you only realize when it is too late. One day, your morning erections disappear, and then even further loss follows. Physical contact or fantasy eventually stops working, even when combined with medication. The body no longer reacts as it once did because the basic foundation has already deteriorated. I have met men who sat in front of me with tears in their eyes, asking if they could restore what was lost. Some managed to recover through intensive therapy, changes in their lifestyle, and medical assistance. However, others waited too long. They believed quitting masturbation was harmless, a sign of self-discipline, but in reality, it marked the silent start of declining function. Let me be clear, this is not about being obsessed with sex, but about safeguarding a crucial part of your circulatory health, hormone balance, and masculine identity. Keeping some occasional solo activity, even once or twice weekly, helps maintain blood circulation, keeps nerves active, and signals your body that this function still matters. The truth is, when you stop using something, you begin to lose it, and later in life, that decline might become irreversible. I have witnessed how it shatters men not because they wish to impress others, but because it undermines their confidence, relationships, and their sense of manhood. What is most heartbreaking is that all of this was entirely avoidable. It only demanded regular care, not excess, but attention. While many men dread losing their ability to have erections, they do not realize this is only the beginning. The true impact of stopping masturbation reaches far deeper into your hormonal system, and once those begin to shift, the ripple effects of a crash extend far beyond the bedroom. Let me explain how it often begins in a subtle way. A man starts to feel unlike himself, but cannot quite understand why he no longer feels eager to get out of bed each morning. He misses his usual walks, his appetite shifts, his mood becomes flatter, and he experiences increased fatigue during the day. He grows more irritable and withdrawn, and deep inside he senses that something important is slipping away, though he cannot quite identify it. In my clinic, I have seen men attribute these changes to aging, stress, or poor sleep quality. However, when we explore further, we frequently uncover the same underlying cause. Their testosterone levels have fallen, not only naturally due to aging, but often dramatically accelerated by a total lack of sexual stimulation. What many people do not know is that masturbation is among the few natural ways older men can boost their body's testosterone production without medication. This is not about sex or fantasies, but about biological processes. When a man regularly experiences arousal and release, his brain sends signals that help balance hormone levels. Dopamine rises, the hypothalamus is triggered, and even in one's 60s or 70s, the testicles receive the message to continue making testosterone. But when this process stops completely, when a man goes for weeks or even months without any sexual activity, the body receives an entirely different signal. It interprets this as a sign that intimacy is no longer necessary, so hormone production slows down drastically. Once this cycle begins, it can become very difficult to reverse. Men with low testosterone do not. When men simply feel exhausted, they start to lose their sense of self. Their concentration falters, and the activities that once brought them pride no longer hold their interest. Muscle strength fades, bones grow weaker and more fragile, and they become increasingly susceptible to depression. Perhaps the most alarming consequence is that their risk of heart problems grows, leaving them vulnerable to heart attacks and strokes. I have witnessed energetic men transform into mere shadows within a few short years, not due to illness, but because no one explained how crucial regular, healthy sexual activity is for maintaining hormonal balance. One of my patients, a retired firefighter, shared how after his hormone levels declined, he felt invisible. His words remain vivid. He said, "Doc, I don't even recognize the man in the mirror." The sadness in his eyes was not about vanity but a deep sense of loss. This situation need not have unfolded this way. With a bit of knowledge and embracing a simple habit he once thought inappropriate, he could have safeguarded not just his hormones but also his happiness, vitality, and motivation. The difficult truth is that once testosterone plunges in later years, it can demand years of treatment and large sums of money to recover, if recovery happens at all. Yet by consistently and respectfully nurturing one's intimacy, it is possible to maintain hormonal health much longer than most expect. While hormone changes may be invisible, the physical effects that follow are something every man can actually feel. There is a condition that develops quietly and often painfully deep within the body until it begins to affect your everyday life. And most people do not even realize it is linked to one simple thing they have stopped doing. Let me clarify. There is a type of discomfort that older men rarely discuss. A heavy, persistent ache deep in the pelvic area combined with an odd pressure after sitting for too long or a frequent urge to urinate even when the bladder is barely full. It does not strike suddenly like a heart attack. Instead, it gradually builds up quietly until it starts interfering with daily activities. By the time many men mention these symptoms to their doctor, they have already endured them for months or sometimes even years. What is surprising is how often this quiet suffering can be traced back to a commonly overlooked cause: prostate congestion, resulting from insufficient ejaculation. The prostate is not just a passive organ in the male body, it is an active gland responsible for producing and storing seminal fluid. This fluid is designed to move and be expelled regularly. When sexual activity or masturbation stops entirely, especially with advancing age, the fluid remains stagnant. Over time, it becomes thicker, pressure accumulates, and inflammation develops. That is when men start to notice changes such as slower urine flow, discomfort in the lower back, a constant need to urinate, in that awakening feeling in the middle of the night. As a urologist, Dr. Michael Carter often sees older patients who believe they have bladder problems, only to find that the real issue lies with the prostate. Prostatitis is an irritated and inflamed prostate. In many situations, the answer is not medication, but movement as the body naturally cleanses itself through consistent ejaculation. Ignoring this process for too long can lead to serious problems. Some men develop chronic prostatitis, a painful, persistent inflammation that is challenging to manage and even more difficult to live with. Others require invasive treatments simply to regain a sense of normalcy. Beyond the physical pain, there is another risk many men are unaware of. Studies, including a notable research project from Harvard, indicate that frequent ejaculation might help reduce the chances of prostate cancer. The idea is straightforward. When the prostate empties regularly, it prevents the accumulation of harmful substances. However, when this fluid remains stagnant for many months, it may worsen inflammation and increase long-term risks. One patient I worked with had nearly 2 years without any sexual activity. He said he did not feel the need and believed it was no longer relevant. Yet after his prostate-specific antigen levels rose sharply and further tests were done, we discovered significant congestion. His prostate was swollen and irritated, and he was confronted with biopsy options that may have been avoidable with something as natural and simple as keeping up occasional release. This is not about promoting indulgence, but about preventing pain and understanding that the male body does not simply stop functioning. After the age of 60, the body requires more care, not less. In fact, it deserves greater attention and respect. The prostate ranks among the most sensitive organs in older men, and neglecting it does not only cause discomfort but can also result in life-changing consequences. Although an enlarged prostate may lead to pain, irritation, and frequent trips to the bathroom at night, the real impact runs deeper. It affects a man's self-perception in ways many do not anticipate until it has firmly taken hold. Allow me to explain further. This decline is often silent yet profoundly damaging. It does not appear in blood work and cannot be easily quantified, but it is felt on a deeper level. There is a gradual dimming of the energy that once defined you, a growing sense of disconnection from yourself that defies explanation. This process unfolds slowly. You might find yourself no longer masturbating because you convince yourself it is unnecessary. You attribute it to aging, a loss of interest, or the natural progression of life when not in a relationship. However, this choice impacts more than just the body. It seeps into your mind, emotions, and the very essence of your existence. I have spoken with men who describe feeling empty inside, not due to illness or physical discomfort, but because they have experienced months, sometimes years, without any form of sexual release or intimacy, even with themselves. Over time, this emptiness grows until they begin to feel invisible, unwanted, and superfluous. Naturally, most men do not speak openly about these feelings, especially as they age. Men were never instructed on how to do this. Yet it becomes evident in their gait, in their tendency to avoid reflections, and in how their voices soften when asked about their well-being. This matter is not about sexuality, but about vitality and the subtle yet profound link between the physical body and emotional health. When someone abandons self-pleasure completely, they sever one of the last connections to joy, to self-awareness, and to a sense of being truly alive. For men beyond 60, this is more than a mere loss. It is a deep wound, since arousal, pleasure, and release are not exclusive to youth, but are vital for keeping the brain-stimulated hormones balanced and emotions steady. From a neurological perspective, the substances released during self-stimulation such as dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins play a crucial role in managing mood, alleviating anxiety, and maintaining emotional balance. Without these chemicals, men face a higher risk of falling into depression, isolation, and even mental decline. I have witnessed men who once exuded confidence and enjoyed social interactions gradually retreat into solitude, become disengaged, and lose interest not due to drastic life changes, but because they disconnected from a part of themselves that used to make them feel vibrant and alive. What makes this situation particularly alarming is that many men are unaware of this internal link. They do not associate their emotional dullness with the choice they took months earlier to stop intimate self-connection. By the time the consequences surface, the harm has already set in, and undoing it demands far more than a simple reversal. Hormone therapy or adopting a new regimen requires rebuilding the connection with yourself, realizing that even in later years, your body still desires to feel, to express, to connect. This is the outcome that hurts me the most, because it is the one that quietly robs a man of his dignity without him even noticing. It takes away the calm assurance he once held, the warmth he used to share, and leaves behind a hollow version of himself that feels unfamiliar. But here is the truth I want every man to understand. It is never too late to reconnect with yourself, never too late to rekindle the vitality you believed was lost. In the final section of this video, I will reveal the precise, simple, science-supported steps you can begin today to recover what so many older men have let slip away, and what you still hold the power to preserve. Let us complete this journey together. Many older men hold the misconception that intimacy, pleasure, and desire fade as they age, that after a certain point the body must grow silent. They believe it is honorable, perhaps even dignified, to relinquish that part of themselves. However, after over 3 decades as a doctor, working with men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, I can assure you this idea costs too many their health, joy, and sense of self. Today, you learned how ceasing masturbation can cause a gradual decline in your sexual performance, lead to a harmful decrease in hormone levels, generate swelling and inflammation in the prostate gland, and bring about a quiet emotional detachment that slowly wears down your inner strength with each passing day. These are not minor adjustments. These are profound transformations that occur not due to the passage of time, but because of neglect. The encouraging part is it does not have to be like this. Your body retains the memory of how to feel alive. Your mind continues to crave meaningful connection, and your well-being still relies on you valuing every aspect of yourself, even those unseen by others. This is not about desire. It is about life itself, preserving what makes you feel powerful, whole, and truly human. You should never feel guilty for prioritizing your health over silence. If this message touched you, I encourage you to embrace it with sincerity and make it personal because it truly is. If you are ready to reclaim control over this area of your existence, I stand with you. You are never alone, and your journey is far from over. If these words stirred something within you, even slightly, type 1 in the comments to show that you remain present, that you still care, and that you continue to fight for your well-being. If this did not resonate, that is perfectly fine as well. Type 0 and share what you need. Either way, your voice is significant and you are not alone.